I planned a simple and loving proposal at the lake where our story began. But her maid of honor laughed and called it pathetic. My fiancé stayed silent. Weeks later she came back begging for another chance. But I never looked back. I'm 28 and Madison and I have been together for 3 years. We met back in college, drifted apart for a bit, and then found our way back to each other. There were these little things that stuck with me from when we reconnected. The way she'd laugh at the funny bits in movies, how she talked about the places she wanted to travel to as if we were already planning those trips, and those late-night phone calls that made everything feel within reach. She just has this talent for brightening up any room effortlessly. For months, I planned the proposal. I didn't want it to be over the top, just something that felt meaningful to us. Madison often said the dock at her parents' lake was where so many great memories were created. It was where we had our first walk in the dark with flashlights, our first kiss that actually meant something, and those nights spent dreaming about what our future might hold. It felt right to bring it all back to that spot. I got a few close friends and family in on the surprise, strung up lights along the dock, set out some candles, and made a playlist with her favorite song. It wasn't anything grand, just intimate and familiar. That's all I thought it needed. She showed up in the late afternoon, with the sun hanging low and casting a warm glow. We walked out to the end of the pier like we always did, joking about how the mosquitoes seemed to take their time at that hour. I guided her to a blanket I'd spread out, the lights twinkling above us, and the lake calm except for the soft sound of water splashing against the posts. My hands felt shaky, but I focused on her face, the gentle smile she wore, and how her eyes softened when she let her guard down. When I got down on one knee, I really wanted to keep it real and straightforward. I said her name, and then everything I'd rehearsed just spilled out. I asked her to marry me. Her hands flew to her face, and she said yes before I even finished the question. Around us, people started clapping and laughing. Some were even crying, and for a brief moment, I felt like I was floating, as if all the tension I'd been holding just released in an instant. But then Claire chuckled. At first, I thought it was just a nervous laugh, one of those reactions where someone isn't sure whether to cry or smile. But it wasn't just that. Her voice rang out louder than I expected. Seriously? That's your proposal? Some fairy lights on an old dock? Pathetic. Just like that, the vibe shifted. The clapping died down. Conversations went quiet. I could even hear the tape on the microphones fluttering as someone moved. Suddenly, I couldn't even feel my heartbeat. It was all lodged in my throat, thumping in my ears. One of Madison's cousins covered her mouth and turned away. My mom's jaw tightened. Madison's smile was still there, but her expression seemed to freeze. Claire wasn't pulling any punches. She raised her voice further, acting like it was her duty to speak the truth. Madison, you deserve better. This looks like something out of a cheesy high school movie. I wanted to yell at her to cut it out. I wanted to explain everything I'd done, how I chose that spot because of our memories together, how every light and song was just for her. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I just felt tiny, like my heartfelt gesture had turned into a joke. Madison glanced at Claire, then back at me. That look didn't say she was defending me. It came with a pause, a hesitation that felt more painful than any insult. People were moving around us, throwing glances, not sure which side to take. Claire leaned back, arms crossed, looking pretty pleased with herself, like she had made some kind of judgment. I stood there on the dock, the lights above us shining down and a ring in my hand, trapped in the heavy silence that followed. The moment I dreamed about so many times had just fallen apart, and we had no idea how to fix it. The worst part was Madison's reaction. She didn't step in to defend me against Claire. She just pressed her lips together and stared at the ground, waiting for this to blow over. I hoped she might say something to Claire to put a stop to it, but nothing came. That silence felt more painful than any insult could ever be. Later that night, after the lights were taken down and everyone was leaving, I confronted Madison about it. We were sitting in her car outside her parents' place, and my heart felt heavy. "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked. She sighed, leaning her head back against the seat. "You know how Claire can be. She didn't mean it like that. She's just looking out for me." "Looking out for you? That's what you're calling it." Couldn't believe it. Looking out, she called my proposal pathetic in front of our families. She made me look foolish, and you just stood there as if it didn't matter. Madison reached over and grabbed my hand. I love you, Ethan, she said. I replied, yes, because I want to marry you. That's what matters, Claire. She just thinks she knows what's best for me. Maybe she expected something more extravagant. Those last words hurt more than Claire's laughter. More extravagant. As if the lights, the lake, and the memories of that dock weren't enough. Like I had somehow failed some kind of unspoken test I didn't even realize I was part of. I didn't push it further that night, but the drive home was quiet. I kept replaying everything in my mind, me down on one knee, the lights, the candles, then Claire's cutting voice and Madison just standing there silent. The days after didn't exactly improve. Every time I thought about the proposal, I could picture her looking at Claire instead of me. The more I dwelled on it, the more clear it became. Claire had a far greater sway over Madison than I ever understood. A week later, I bumped into one of Madison's friends at the grocery store. She congratulated me, then let out a nervous laugh. Claire's been talking about the proposal. She said it was cheap and that you didn't really put much thought into it. I froze, standing there with a bag of bread, unsure of how to react. Cheap, effortless, settling. Those words were now circulating, all thanks to Claire's dramatic outburst. When I shared this with Madison, she shook her head. It doesn't matter what she says. I don't care. I loved it. It was perfect for us. But here's the kicker, it did matter. Maybe not to her, but respect means a lot to me. If her best friend could tear me down in front of others and Madison's response was just a shrug, what did that say about us? Some nights, I'd lie awake, thinking about it. I wasn't just worried about Claire. I was worried about us. If Madison wouldn't stand up for me when it counted, when else would she remain silent? I found myself questioning if I was marrying Madison or both of them. What was supposed to be the happiest night of my life turned into a nagging question. Were we embarking on a forever together? Or had I just been warned about what that might really look like? Deep down, I knew this story wasn't finished. I tried to shake off that night. Madison kept insisting it didn't matter, that all that counted was us. But honestly, that moment lingered. It got tangled in every memory I shared with her after. Family dinners, birthdays, casual get-togethers, and Claire was always there. Each time I saw her, all I could think about was how her laughter had cut through my proposal. There was no escaping it. A month passed and we had our engagement party. Madison organized most of it, and of course, Claire was right in the middle of everything. I kept telling myself to swallow my feelings, to be polite, to keep things smooth for Madison. But the moment Claire walked in, it felt like the air thickened. She hugged Madison like nothing had happened, flashed me a fake smile, and leaned in to whisper, "Nice decorations. At least it's an improvement over your proposal." I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to stay calm. The party continued. Music played. Laughter filled the air. Glasses clinked. But I couldn't relax. Every time I caught Claire watching me, it felt like she was daring me to mess up, waiting for proof that I wasn't good enough. Halfway through the night, I stepped outside for a breather. Leaning against the porch railing, I stared at the string lights in the backyard, wondering if everyone else saw me through Claire's lens. That's when Madison's cousin, Emma, came over. Hesitant at first, she finally whispered, "Ethan, I can't believe I'm telling you this, but Claire's been saying things. She told people Madison could do better and even hopes she wakes up before it's too late." Something dropped in my chest. It wasn't just a bad night. Claire had been poisoning the well all along. When I told Madison later, she rubbed her temples like she had a headache. "Ethan, she's my best friend. She just doesn't see what I see in you. That doesn't change how I feel." I wanted to trust her. I really did. But a part of me couldn't shake the feeling that Madison wasn't just defending Claire. She was starting to listen to her too. I began noticing small things after that. Madison would hesitate with decisions I made, as if she were second-guessing me. She'd bring up Claire's opinions about this and that, like Claire's approval mattered. I'd see her scrolling through her phone after a text from Claire, and she'd look at me differently, like she wasn't fully there anymore. 2 weeks after the party, things took a turn. We were moving boxes from Madison's apartment into storage. She was in the shower when her phone buzzed. I picked it up to bring it to her, but before I could hand it over, I saw a message from Claire. Please don't tell me you're really going through with this wedding. You deserve more than that. Don't settle for a guy who can't even propose properly. Right? I stood there frozen, hands clenched. When Madison came out, I showed her the message. For the first time, she didn't jump to defend Claire. Her gaze dropped and guilt washed over her. Ethan, she said quietly, she just doesn't think you're the one for me. She's been saying it for a while. The silence said it all. After reading that text, everything shifted. I asked Madison straight up, do you believe her? She didn't answer right away. She just stared at the floor, twisting her sleeve. That pause said so much. The next week, it felt like something invisible settled between us. Madison claimed she was just stressed about the wedding, but I could sense the distance. She would scroll through her phone at night, then quickly flip it face down when I entered the room. She'd start to speak, then stop and shake her head. Claire's words weren't just lingering anymore. They were embedded in Madison's mind. One evening, I finally asked, Madison, do you want to marry me? Or are you letting Claire make that call for you? Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't look away. I love you, Ethan. I do. But Claire keeps saying things, and sometimes I wonder if she's right. Maybe you didn't go big enough with the proposal. Maybe it says something about us, she admitted. I sat there shocked. A proposal, a moment I had put my heart into, was now being used as proof I wasn't enough. Not because Madison believed it, but because Claire wouldn't let it go. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about Madison and me anymore. I wasn't just fighting for us. I was up against Claire. The next few days were tense. We'd sit down with her parents to discuss wedding plans, and I'd see Madison sneaking glances at her phone. I didn't even need to ask who she was texting. One morning, while packing a box of decorations, I found myself wondering if I was already losing her. Not because she didn't love me, but because another voice was drowning mine out. The breaking point came just a few days later at her parents' house. We were at the table, surrounded by notes, trying to finalize everything when Claire strolled in like she owned the place. The atmosphere shifted instantly. She took a seat across from me, arms crossed, sizing me up. So you're still doing this? I could feel my jaw tense. Doing what exactly? She gestured between us. This wedding, this whole thing, Madison deserves someone who knows how to treat her right, not whatever this is. I stood up, pushing my chair back. Claire, you don't get to decide that. You're not marrying her. If you truly cared about her happiness, you'd support her instead of tearing us apart. The room went quiet. Madison's mom stared at the table. Her dad cleared his throat but stayed silent. Madison looked torn, caught between two worlds. Claire leaned forward. If she goes through with this, she'll regret it. I know her better than you do. Just like that, everything boiled over. Madison had a choice to make. The atmosphere felt heavy after Claire's words. It wasn't just an argument. It was a line drawn in the sand. I looked at Madison. She hadn't spoken. Her hands twisted the fabric of her dress. I could see the conflict on her face. Madison, I said gently, this can't keep going. Do you want to marry me? Or are you going to let Claire make that call for you? She finally raised her eyes to meet mine. For a moment, it felt like she might choose me, might finally take a stand. But then her gaze shifted to Claire, and the silence stretched on. Claire broke it first. He's not enough for you. Deep down, you know it. If you choose him, you'll regret it. I'm just saying what you're too scared to admit. My chest felt like it was on fire, but I stayed quiet. I wanted Madison's answer, not another fight with Claire. Finally, Madison spoke. Claire, stop, she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was steady. You embarrassed Ethan. You humiliated him, and I let it happen. That was my mistake. Claire blinked, taken aback. Madison turned to me, her voice softening. I should have defended you that night.
I'm sorry.
For a brief moment, I thought she was choosing me. But then her expression changed, and her next words cut deeper than anything else. But Claire isn't wrong, Ethan. I keep thinking about it. Maybe the proposal does say something about us. Maybe it means you aren't what I need. Felt like the ground dropped out from under me. After everything we had, the lake, the lights, the time we'd spent together, it came down to that. Claire leaned back, looking victorious. Madison's mom covered her mouth. Her dad sighed. I just nodded slowly, coming to terms with it. So this is it. I asked, "You're ending this because your best friend thinks my proposal wasn't good enough?" Madison's eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I thought she might take it back. But she didn't. She whispered, "I'm sorry. I can't do this." Claire stood up and wrapped her arm around her. Madison didn't pull away. She leaned into Claire. That told me everything. I walked out without another word. The weeks that followed were strange. People reached out. Some friends said I dodged a bullet, while others were shocked. I stayed quiet. I didn't want to explain. One night, I got a text from Madison saying, "I think I messed up." She said she missed me and couldn't stop reflecting on how I looked at her on the pier, how I'd planned something personal. She admitted she had let Claire's voice drown out her own and was regretting it. I read it twice, but then I put my phone down. As much as I had wanted her to choose me, I realized she had already made a decision. She picked Claire's opinion over mine. She chose silence when I needed her to stand up for me. I didn't respond. Maybe someday she'll see that the proposal wasn't as bad as she thought. What's really sad is letting someone else's view mess up what we had. Now I see this clearly. The person you marry should be in your corner, not working against you. I appreciate you hanging in there until the end. Don't forget to subscribe for more updates.